We will be screening the first episode of Discovery. But before that, Matt, we have a gift. We received a gift from a listener.
It's going to explode.
It's not going to explode. I had a listener write in and say, you guys have a post office box or whatever, and I told him where to send stuff to us. This is a delightful gift to celebrate us finishing the entirety of Star Trek from when we announced this project so many years ago.
It was 8.
More importantly, you feel every year that.
Every freaking year.
More importantly, celebrating the end of Enterprise.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
It's okay, it can't hurt us anymore. It's over, it's over.
I still hear that theme song in my nightmares.
It's okay.
You have my consent. Thank you. This is what we received. This listener, I don't know his real name. He goes by the name Duh.
All right. Long time.
Matt? That really reflects the horrible Bush-era awfulness of that show, too. All right. Watch us roll up a thing now.
Enjoy.
All right, so with all that said, we will be back to record an episode in about 47 minutes, but right now we're going to be taking our seats and enjoying the screening of the first episode of Discovery, the Vulcan Hello. Woo! Thank you. Oh, no! No! Fuck you! Fuck you, Archer! Fuck you!
I think we killed that piece of paper.
This time for sure. Important that we record this. After all that bragging about us being the most accomplished Star Trek podcast, if I didn't hit that red button.
Yeah, this puts us on. This puts us over the top.
Yeah.
Make that all of the other Star Treks.
Hi, friends!
Hi!
You guys have been very patient. I appreciate that, especially through all of that Klingon talking. Oh my god. Matt, we only have an hour.
Executed perfectly.
Oh, flawlessly, to the point that it meant nothing. So, before we start our summary, first impressions, what do you think?
It's good, man. I'm happy to not be watching stupid Enterprise anymore.
Well, see, there's two things going on here. It's not Enterprise, which could be literally anything, like, I mean, I would watch Young Sheldon before I watched Enterprise. That's just the last thing I heard. I heard my wife out here talking about Young Sheldon. I guess she's a Young Sheldon enthusiast? I'm not sure what that's about. But then there's also the first new Star Trek show in, what was it? Enterprise ended in 2005, this aired last year, 12 years.
Yeah.
That's nuts, and I think it's got some problems, but
Look, it's not perfect, but it's better than other things we could be watching.
But again, putting aside that it's not Enterprise, just on its own merits.
I like it. I like the characters. Now, this is weird, because it's not a pilot so much as it is, like, a prologue to the pilot, so...
Yeah, apparently they made the initial 13, and then they said, oh wait, you need to know who these people are, so we're going to go back and tack 2 more on at the beginning to establish who some of these
cannot
things
imagine who would start with that pilot, as I've seen it, and then go from that. Yeah, this is fine. You don't need to see any of these.
Yeah, you don't need to establish any of this, just jump right in. So,
yeah.
So yeah, it is a little unusual in that regard. I'm gonna
get over here. Come sit by me.
Okay, that's fine.
That's better.
All right.
Now it's like we're radio hosts.
Yeah. Faces for radio.
Uh-huh.
All right, so I think that's about enough banter. That's about enough perfectly natural banter.
Now we should read some stuff off of some paper we
Yes, this is the custom of our people. We have done this 370 times before, so I feel like I should know what I'm doing, but I still don't. So I apologize for that in advance. That said, here's our summary.
Of the Vulcan Hello.
Sounds like a Seinfeld title, doesn't it? Okay. We open on the Orcs of Mordor, which, Matt assures me, is a Harry Potter reference, and an especially hilarious one, speaking Klingon, which is subtitled in Klingon. Who is this for? Is this literally just being made for Mark O'Cran, the guy who invented the Klingon language and also wrote a Klingon translation of the K volume of the World Book Encyclopedia? Oh, there, now they're in English, but they still don't feel very Klingon.
For all we know, they're not even speaking Klingon. Come on, Discovery. Did you not find a Klingon speaker? What was Michael Dorn doing? Don't answer that. I know what he was doing. It was nothing. So meet Takuvma, the uniter of the Klingon houses, and probably something else. He doesn't like Starfleet, I know that much.
Speaking of Starfleet, I am an expert at segues. Now we're on a planet, which for the first time in the franchise's long history does not look like a dentist's office. It looks like an alien-ass alien planet, complete with alien asses. And aliens attached to them, probably. Also, within the first 2 minutes, this episode passes the Bechdel test, so we are definitely exploring some strange new worlds for Star Trek. Trust us, we've seen 729 previous episodes of Star Trek, and this hardly ever happens.
2 women of color not discussing a man? What is this,
Matt, did you forget what show you were reviewing?
Sorry, I was trying to think of something with 2 women of color not discussing a man to compare to my brain went completely blank.
729 episodes!
So these are Captain Philippa Georgiou and Commander Michael Burnham of the USS Shenzhou. Their current mission is to provide much-needed backstory to the new viewers and draw a big Star Trek logo so nobody thinks that this is Netflix Presents Lost in Space featuring sexy robot. Also, they fix a well and give water to some crabs. What?
But this mission pales in comparison to their next one, fixing a hole in a radio. That's right, somewhere in space, Starfleet has one of those beeping satellites that you get, only it's stopped beeping. And who better to investigate than Starfleet's, I don't know, 6th best ship? The Shenzhou.
In all fairness, they do need to make sure it hasn't evolved into a planet-destroying space cloud, a genocidal lobotomizing death probe, or an ocean-vaporizing whale enthusiast. Surprisingly, it's none of these things. Some asshole just threw a rock at it. But, you know, that's how space rolls in Star Trek. You can't go 5 minutes without some fucker from the Gorn hegemony tossing a rock through your radio. Jerks.
Nice use of hegemony, Matt. So Michael Burnham, who is the actual protagonist of this series, and probably someone we should start talking about instead of reading words out of our word-a-day Star Trek calendars, nice though they are, is excited to check out this non-beeping satellite with a hole in it. Less excited is Lieutenant Commander Saru, the science officer. As far as I can tell, his entire job is to scream, "Oh, no!" and flail his rims around in terror at any suggestion of new life or new civilizations. Why he chose this career, we cannot say. Dude hasn't so much boldly gone to the bathroom his entire life. But he's a thing, so we should probably mention him too.
So Michael suits up in her fancy Mass Effect spacesuit and explores some asteroids on the far side of the radio, only discovered my favorite Star Trek thing. Some weird-ass space architecture. But whose weird-ass is it? I'll save you some time, it's the Klingons. Well, it's one Klingon, in an incredibly un-Klingon spacesuit. Waving a bat-leth around, I guess, like Klingons do. Al, why is he out there?
Well, first, I did try to market this as a good jumping-on point for people who haven't seen Star Trek before. So we should tell you that a bat-leth is like, you know those neckbeardy dudes with utilikilts that everyone here probably has at least one of in their life? Klingons are all like that guy. And they have these really stupid-looking swords that they like to wave around. As for what this particular Klingon was doing out there, I'm gonna stick with my neckbeard comparison and say he stepped out for a vape.
So then Michael accidentally wins a sword fight. Or more accurately, the Klingon falls on his own sword. Way to tragically trip a guy, Mike. You'll go far in this man's space navy. Unfortunately, this uses up her don't get killed by space radiation dummy time limit, mostly because she hadn't planned on spending it jerk-assing around with a Klingon with a stoplight for a head. And her DNA starts falling off, so they get back to the ship.
While Michael's radiation-melted face is somehow futuristically being resculpted, the crew of the Shenzhou just go about their business, unaware that a Klingon corpse is lurking nearby. And you know that old saying, where there's one Klingon corpse, there's a thousand Klingon pre-corpses having a boring conversation nearby. So Michael sprints to the bridge in her underwear and starts ranting in the captain's face about Klingons. Georgiou, for her part, actually believes this, Which makes sense, because Michael has been her first officer for 7 years, and she actually trusts her second in command. Which seems like common sense, but only if you haven't been watching that show that shall not be named for the past year or so.
So looking for advice on what to expect when you're expecting thousands of Klingons, Michael excuses herself to hold up one of the great recent Star Trek traditions, calling a Vulcan from another series for help. Said Vulcan is our old buddy Sarek, father of Spock, Sybok, and Michael, apparently? Okay. So Sarek tells her about the Vulcans' first encounter with Klingons and how they were massacred, so next time the Vulcans just shot first. And then says to her to specifically not do that.
So naturally she returns to the bridge with every intention of doing that. Oh, we should probably also mention that Michael's birth parents were brutally murdered by Klingons, but that probably doesn't have any actual bearing on her entirely rational decision to nerve pinch a skeptical Yeoh and demand that the Shenzhou fire on the Klingon ships. Saru finds something odd about this decision, as does the surprisingly hardy Yeoh, who wakes up about 10 seconds after being nerve pinched. Next time aim for the neck, she says. And she's obviously pretty cheesed off about this whole mutiny thing, but then, well, how many ugly-ass Klingon ships would you say warp in at this point, Matt?
Oh, all of them, Al. Each uglier and more terribly designed than the last.
Yes, I think we're all in complete agreement there. They are extremely ugly, but you said our heroes are boned, right?
Oh, I'd say they're deader than disco. Hey!
So yeah, lots going on.
Oh, there's a lot going on. It's a very busy first episode.
It is, but on the other hand, this is the second time I've watched it this week as we screened it with the live audience here. And I was bored sometimes.
Oh, there's a lot of Klingons talking.
Yeah.
The points when we're with the Starfleet guys and they're discussing and being a crew together, that stuff's awesome. I am so here for that. Any of the just Yeoh, Saru, Michael, random guys with cool hats just around the room.
The cold open where they're on an alien planet, and again, very alien-looking planet. It looks great. Like effects technology for television shows has leapt well ahead. They probably have more of a budget also, and it looked great.
Well, it's the only show on the CBS network. They must get all the money.
I mean, obviously, as a paying customer, I will have to agree with you. I must have just forgotten about.
I have no comment here.
No, it was cool because I dig that sort of James Bondy first 5 minutes has nothing to do with the rest of the story thing where you just jump in and you see them
James
in
Bond
action.
jumps in and starts a well.
Yeah, I mean, that's at least 3 of them, right? Yeah, I haven't seen a James Bond movie. So
They're all about wells.
I have no reason to not believe. It was cool seeing them just at the end of an adventure before they go on to the next one, and their banter was a little stiff. This is actually my bad thing. A lot of the dialogue has that problem that pilots, and technically this isn't a pilot, you're right, but the pilots always have lots of exposition, character traits delivered in the form of exposition. There's long speeches, and it's like, these guys have served together for 7 years, and you're saying, as you know, I was raised by Vulcans. Like, what? Really?
I was watching that this time with an eye towards your bad thing, and I realized a lot of those shots are just a long way away. Their faces are covered. That's a lot of ADR.
Yeah.
Where someone was like, no one knows what's happening. Make them talk about what's happening more.
Yeah, and it was a lot of information to offload, and it was a little stiff. And you know, it's particularly noticeable with Michael and Captain Yeoh. That's not the only place that it happens, but that's the most noticeable.
Yeah.
And some of it, I guess, you could excuse because Michael's raised by Vulcans, and she's clearly tamping her emotions down, and she probably comes off a little wooden and a little stiff sometimes. I can relate, but I just don't know where to look. Okay. But it was still a little clunky. And even when she calls up Sarek, I felt like some of that was a little like.
I assumed that was her just, oh, I get to talk to Sarek now.
That whole family,
This
man.
should go. Well, I thought about this one because a complaint I heard a lot when the show was being
Was it?
launched
Sorry. Was it about the hologram sitting down? Because that really bugged somebody.
No, it was about who the Bill is.
Out! Get out! You're fired.
No, so a lot of people complain, it's like, oh, Spock's got this sister we've never heard about before, and I'm just like, dude, this is a guy who introduced his best friend to his parents when they were standing right in front of him.
Oh, I just rewatched that episode. Kirk meets them. His Spock's mother and father. And then it's revealed, like, oh, this is the Vulcan ambassador. He has a reason to be here that's independent of Spock. Oh, by the way, Also, that's my dad.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
he
you
didn't
want to
want
bring that up at any point, Spock, my best friend and first officer? No? Okay, fine.
And possibly lover?
Uh-huh. You don't have like a spare relative or anything? No, Jim, of course not. I'll be over here updating the family tree you can't look at.
But that didn't, I mean, it's a little clumsy, and as we go into the show, I think we're gonna have this complaint about why is this a prequel, why is it wrapped up with stuff that it really doesn't, there's no reason her dad can't be some other Vulcan.
Yeah.
I like the character.
But you gotta have those ties to stuff people have heard of. Like,
Why?
because Star Trek is really lazy when it comes to stuff like this. I love the show, but like, it always goes for the easiest, like, thing these days.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're right. I mean, they're looking at making a show about Khan, which please don't.
But they're looking at doing another Picard show, which,
Thanks.
yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. A lot of that is because they're being safe, but it's not the Sarek we recognize. It's not even the one from the movies. It's like they're creating a third version of this character.
Yeah.
And why?
That would be great, and they make a huge point. It's like, this does not tie into the movies. This is leading into the prime reality. I'm like, you can say that all you want. It looks just like the movies.
I mean, I hate to make a lens flare joke because that's as tired as a red shirt joke. That's as tired as all the, like. In the very first episode of this podcast, we said we will not make the set phasers to fun and warp speed to hilarity and all that bullshit. And like,
Should have been the title of the show, honestly.
I feel like lens flare jokes are real close to that. Just, okay, yeah, J.J. Abrams like lens flares. We get it. We've seen it. We know. Shut up. But they sure lens flared in this one.
It's very shiny.
It's unavoidable. And I didn't love that.
Mhm.
But you like the aesthetic though, didn't you?
I do like the aesthetic.
Was this your good thing?
I am going to find my good thing on my paper. Yeah, no, I am a big fan of the new Starfleet aesthetic. I love the new uniforms, I love the new ship, I love the big friggin' bridge with all the weird robots running around. Like, all of it. And, like, it looks great, and it clearly is 10 years before the new show.
Well, obviously.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's obviously going to evolve into cardboard.
Yeah.
That swirly thing, that one monitor that was just like...
Tear out all this cool hologram stuff. I
Uh-huh.
want big, hard angles. And you take pants off.
All of you. Literally 1/3 of the crew.
Oh, well. So many women.
No, actually, this brings me to my good thing, which is one specific woman, which was Captain Giorgio.
Mm-hmm.
Played by Michelle Yeoh, who is awesome in her own right, but the character specifically, she played her great. But in 47 minutes, she's a better captain than that last guy was in 98 episodes. And I'm really not using this as an excuse to complain about Enterprise. I'm not. It's just that's fresh in my head. I haven't seen a captain this good in so long. Janeway was good.
Yep.
But Giorgio was just like, she was sympathetic, she was empathetic, she was charismatic, she was a leader. Like, when they didn't know what was out there, she didn't assume it was an enemy. She also didn't run away. She's like, no, we're out here to explore. Let's see what it is. Let's be careful, but let's see what it is. And when it turned out some Federation guys might be in danger, there's an Andorian colony nearby that might be in danger, she's like,
Gotta step up.
we cannot run away.
Yeah.
We're the only thing between this thing and innocent lives.
Yep.
Like, all the things that we have missed about Starfleet captains in so long.
And just listening to her crew. And making her, and making decisions based on what she has been told. There's no, I know best. And there's no, what do you think, to Paul? Well, I think this. Well, that's stupid, and so are you. Now, what my dad said.
No, she's great. Everything about her.
Yeah,
is
she's
great.
awesome.
And
all that banter stuff I was talking about earlier, it feels like this is the last episode of the Shenzhou show.
Mhm.
I'm gonna never be able to say that correctly. And they've got I would watch this show. I like these people.
Yes, absolutely. And we're walking a weird line here because we've seen the series through once before, but sort of the mission of our show is to review it chronologically, so we probably shouldn't spoil, and we know some listeners follow along with us, so there's a lot of stuff coming up where the status quo changes, and
it's a very weird way to treat a series for what we've done so far.
It is. We did this a little during DS9, and
Yeah.
I think we're probably just going to have to say we're not going to spoil, or maybe in the recorded version of the show, we'll just say, like, last 5 minutes, turn it off if you don't want to hear spoilers.
Everybody leave now.
Yeah. Anyone who doesn't want to hear, leave the room.
Uh-huh.
But it's safe to say that the status quo changes substantially. The show is called Discovery. There's obviously a ship called Discovery we're not on yet. That much you can figure out already. and we're gonna move on to another captain and a different thing, and you're right, I
Excuse me.
kind of want to stay behind with the Shenja.
Yeah, they're having fun.
Yeah, and that's why I got suckered into paying $20 for a terrible, terrible novel about Captain Georgiou, because I was so, like, entranced by this character.
Now, would you say that the characters of Michael and Spock, when they met in that novel, would you say that they complemented each other like a mirror does?
I wish I had the passage in front of me, because that was literally it. It wasn't subtle at all. It was, they were like a mirror. Oh, Jesus Christ. Don't make the subtext text. Where were you raised?
You've done it again, Star Trek novels.
Yeah. It was very disappointing. It's always disappointing, and yet I always fall for it.
This is the thing I don't like, and I don't want to get into this too much, but like the Trek Discovery media that's come out is so, well, we can't do anything but Discovery, but we have to put this stuff out. So some books about some characters from this one episode, and here's a comic book about some people you don't care about that aren't in the show.
It's the first time they've done a truly serialized show, and because of that, they can't step on what the showrunners have in mind for the next thing.
Yeah, it's not like they're like, oh guys, as long as you're writing this thing, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, I don't know if they know, because they change showrunners every 15 minutes.
But it's also true.
We'll deal with that more when we get into season 2. But I don't know. There's a lot to like.
Oh.
There really is, and there's a lot that I wish was different. Let's talk about those Klingons. Really,
It's okay. So this is my bad thing. Excuse me. As much as I am here for the new Starfleet aesthetic, I hate the new Klingon aesthetic. The faces, I don't care. The new makeup, it's
changing
fine.
the makeup.
Like they did the same thing in the new movies. It's fine. I don't
Okay, but real quick, like there's one sub thought to that before you continue. In the original series, they were basically just mustaches.
Yep.
That was a Klingon. Just had a mustache. Good, you're a Klingon. Fine. It was more costume than it was makeup. And then we all know, like even I see some people out there who don't watch a lot of Star Trek. You still know what a Klingon looks like Worf. Like he's got the ridges. They developed makeup technology and they said, okay, here's what Klingons look like. And it's fine. We all said, okay, well it's the 90s now and you have more of a budget and you can make them look better. Nobody cared except like 2 nerds on the Enterprise writing staff who were determined to write an origin story about why the foreheads changed, and it was so stupid.
Yeah.
But okay, putting aside my Enterprise rage somehow, that's done. The story's told, and now we know that fascinating story. But now they changed it again, so someday we're gonna have to do the story again of how it changed again.
Yeah, but how did they become evil goblins? What about that?
Nobody cares. Anyway, please.
I hate the armor so much.
Well, describe it.
The weird, it's like weird Elizabethan, like, honestly, the first thing I thought when I saw them for the first time, there's one in just the whole white thing, I'm like, is he dressed like Pennywise in the new It movie? Look exactly, it's like weird things with like little horns that someone painted red and like worked really hard on. And I hate it, I hate the whole thing. Well, and then there's the and then there's the ships, which are ugly as hell and don't look anything like any of the other Klingons. Like Klingon ships have looked the same. Like that's not a thing they changed when they moved to.
No, they look kind of like a jet
like an evil
that you
bird.
elongate. You put a big neck on. Like it's got the engine in the back and then sort of a pod in the front and a big long neck.
Not like the usual the Romulan evil bird, but a different evil bird. And I hate it. Go ahead.
The uniforms in particular, I think, was probably the Brian Fuller influence. That feels very him. It feels very when he would go off on his crazy visual tangents on Hannibal, which is a show I know a lot of people liked. I was not particularly a fan, but I'm not going to say it was crap. It just wasn't for me. Sure. But he has a very specific visual aesthetic that I think he was trying to put in, and it just doesn't fit. Like, again, why is it a prequel? If you're trying to cram this in between, we saw it, like, quality issues aside, we saw Enterprise. We know what it was like then. We know what it was like in the show after that. Why would you insert something in between and then change it all? It just doesn't. And we're not continuity guys. We don't care that much.
No.
But it's very jarring.
No, it's mostly just that looks ugly.
Yeah, it's
still. That looks ugly, and you look ugly, and you should feel bad.
There's no reason for it.
Yeah.
Narratively, it doesn't make it better.
Just slap a sash on that guy. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Talk about honor for a minute.
They did.
Yeah. How do you feel about Saru?
I like Saru.
Yeah?
Hey, this is partly, but it took a while for me to get to really like the character, but the design's great.
Yeah, I love the look of him.
I love Doug Jones, and I love that this new show has a new alien. Like, It would be so, again, because Trek always takes the safe way, it would be so easy to just put, another Klingon, whatever. Just,
Well, Michael's whole deal is Vulcan, so we
Mhm.
probably have to put an Andorian. or
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
Yeah.
But it would be so easy, and instead we have this new race that we've never heard of, that's got
Okay.
this whole new weird shit.
Kelpian might be the dumbest alien name.
It's because of the kelp that dangles off the back of
I think Dangle would have been better.
the
Yeah.
alright. No, and I remember seeing him in the trailers, and my people have been designed to sense death. I'm like, that's dumb and you're dumb.
And we thought, okay, well maybe it's figurative. Maybe they don't literally. No, they literally sense death.
Yeah, but
He's got spider sense.
Yeah, but I kind of don't care. I kind of dig it.
It doesn't bother me as much as it did at the beginning. This is one of those things I have seen ahead. I know what happens, and he gets way better. But
Yeah.
right now, like I said in my summary, his job is to just panic and scream and say, "We must run away!" Woo! And it's like,
Oh, look
it
out,
gets-
Saru, it's Mr. Sluggo, and he's here to take you
Yeah,
out.
very much like that. And it gets, to me, it gets real. There's no character there.
Yeah.
He's just there to be scared.
Yep.
And
But
like, how did you get this far in Starfleet?
I have no idea how a guy who's all like, well, we're boldly going where no one's gone before. I don't want to go there.
Yeah. And there's a point where he's like, well, my people, blah, 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 blah. You've been on this ship for how long? And you're explaining, like, this, do you give this speech every time?
Yes,
Or-
he does.
I was sitting back there watching with Brian, who leaned over and said, oh no, he changes it every time. No, my species is bred for one thing. Parties! That was Brian's laugh. I do not want to take credit. I'm not a joke. Yeah, but right now I don't love him. But
The thing is, like, again, we're getting into stuff that hasn't happened yet, but
It
he
could be
has
big.
such a good arc
he does.
over the course of the 13 episodes.
Now we've talked about the captain, we've talked about Saru. Let's talk about Michael. Let's talk
Yeah.
about the first protagonist in all of Star Trek who isn't a captain. I like her. She is a mess.
I love that she is a mess.
Me too.
I think it's such a great. It took me a couple of rewatches
Yeah.
to sort of process. And it's just like when the Klingons show up, it's just like, oh, you're terrified and you're trying to cover it.
All this stuff from her childhood just comes flooding back.
And it's great.
And I wish it had been told a little better instead of her going back and talking and getting the flashback and all that, but whatever.
I remember the first time I saw it, like when she does the nerve pinch and then runs out on the bridge. No, she's taking a nap. We're going. But she definitely put me in charge, and we're going to kill these guys. I know she just said we're not going to kill anybody, but trust me, she changed my. I had a very compelling argument.
You know her always napping.
But I love that she just went into full-on blind panic mode.
I wish, this is kind of a nitpick because I know you had to get things moving. I wish we'd had a little more of her being reasonable, because my first impression the first time I watched this was, Jesus, this is our main character. And when you put it all together, it's just like, okay, this is the first time this has ever happened to her. She's been in Starfleet for at least 7 years, maybe longer.
Well, that's why we had the opening. Like,
Yeah.
see her work as a real
Yeah,
person
yeah,
on the
yeah.
planet, and like.
But it still happens in the first episode, and it just felt like, oh, are you this crazy all the time? And no, I realized, no, not at all.
And like, I love that we get to see the two halves of her, like right away. Like on the planet, she's like, okay, this storm is like 3
Yeah, she does the
hours.
spots
Yeah,
thing.
exactly. And then we get to see her on the spacesuit heading over to the thing, and she's just having the most fun of her life.
Oh, yeah, she's going, wee!
Yeah.
It's great. And it's like, yeah, because, okay, she is a mirror to Spock. Thank you, whatever terrible book that was, I don't remember now. But she's different, like, she was raised by Sarek.
Yeah.
We saw her in the Vulcan boy fight pits.
Yep.
Or whatever they're actually called, I don't know.
It's a learning orb, Al. A learning orb.
Did you just make that up?
Yes.
Okay. Good job. I could have completely believed you.
Yeah.
No, but we see her, she even had the bowl cut,
Yep.
she was wearing the tunic, she was full on, like, my parents were murdered and it freaked me the fuck out and I am a Vulcan now.
Yep.
No feelings, I am a robot, beep boop. And
It's a nice callback to actually that kid who hooked up with Data when.
there's a couple of them
Yeah.
like that. There was one of those, and then Worf adopted a kid
Yeah,
and
that he
forgot about
lost.
him. Yeah. Which was practice for his own kid that he ended up abandoning also.
It was perhaps like some kid running around Mr. Worf. No, Alexander is with his parent. No, the other one, the human one. Oh.
Yeah, he was like your foster kid. You said he was like part of your house and you did the whole ritual and no, it doesn't ring a
Mr.
bell.
Worf, did you leave him on the stair car in Mexico?
Come on.
Yep.
Yeah, but so you can see that from her backstory that she's like, oh, Vulcan, not thinking about it, and then you're right, when you see her on the Klingon mummy ship or whatever the crap it is. It's got corpses all outside of it, like.
See, I love that, it's very Klingon. I don't understand why there's a Klingon with a stoplight stand on his head, just standing on this radioactive thing that's supposed to be unspooling her DNA.
And I
And
thought
just
that was,
hanging out.
okay, I thought that was a metaphor. I thought he's like, it would unspool your, like, okay, of course, Star Trek always does the dumb, like a balloon and something bad happens. And
No, DNA is hanging off of her body.
but then when she comes back, she's like, Michael, DNA unspooling is a serious thing. I'm like, wait, it literally what are you talking about? But,
So like, I told you, noodles.
yeah. I called it. Man, I loved all the subtle stuff between that. Well, it wasn't that subtle, but I loved all the stuff between them. They're at the console, and she kind of muscles in to do his job, and then he muscles back over to do his job, and it was very good. But yeah,
Both of them trying to look good in front of mom.
But you're right. When she sees the Klingon, she freaks the fuck out, and that sends her spinning. And I just love how much of a mess she is.
Yeah.
That doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Spoilers, I guess. And it's nice to have. We complained so much about Archer. I tried.
We sure did.
I tried not to. I really did. Believe it or not, that was me toning it back. But no, really, we complained a lot about a protagonist we could not relate to, doing things, making decisions more often than not that we didn't understand. I don't agree with anything Michael does, but it completely makes sense in context of her character. Within 47 minutes, I get it. I know why she did those things. She's making horrible mistakes. What are you doing?
It's someone who's been pretty together for her entire life, just losing it in the course of like 2 hours.
She nerve pinched her captain.
Yep.
And she just about oh my god. And I was super into it. It was cool.
Yeah.
Like, there's a good way to write someone who makes shitty decisions in a bad way. And I think this was a much better way than the one we previously saw.
Yeah. Well, for one thing, he would never call them the shit decisions he made every week.
No.
I mean, what? No, we're not talking about that.
We're never gonna absolutely never. What else?
What else, indeed?
Those are the main characters we
yeah.
got, I think, right? I mean, we were introduced to a bunch of Klingon stuff that will come up later. I don't think it's really relevant now. Like the Vok, the sort of albino-looking Klingon.
These guys are going to continue to be an issue, and then other Klingons will show up, and they will continue to be an issue, and we'll kind of forget about some of these guys.
I don't want to harp on this too much because there's a lot of good, but God, that stuff bored me so much. Like, it really, they talk in Klingon, in this stilted Klingon that sounds like they memorized the language to get it right phonetically, but they don't feel like they're acting. And it's like, I would much rather you guys do a bad job of this fake language that nobody but 5 nerds care about, and who cares about them? Like, act, man! Like, I want to believe what you're saying, and I don't because you're just reading syllables.
Yeah, it would work so much better if they would have just done it in English. You know?
We said someone could definitely dig up audio of us saying it'd be cool if they just spoke Klingon the whole time.
Sure.
So, monkey's paw.
Yep. Well, what, like Trek should listen to us? What the hell do we know?
729 episodes now.
Yeah.
We, like no other podcast has made it this far.
That's true.
So, we don't remember any of it, by the way.
No.
Somebody will hit me up on Twitter on like Tuesday and say, hey, the reason this happened is because of this. I'm like, what are you talking about? Did I watch that? That doesn't sound like anything we watched. It all blends together. But that's, again, I hate to keep comparing it, but really that whole era, starting with Next Gen, DS9 had a little of it, but Voyager and Enterprise, like that Rick Berman era, it had the same feel, you know what I mean? It had the same 90s TV sort of formula, like, okay, in the 5th act, this is gonna happen, and then one more danger, okay, and it just got so, and if nothing else, I don't always agree with all the things the show does, but it's more like modern TV.
Yep.
It doesn't hit the same beats every time, the characters do things that are unexpected.
They
It's
make
just,
mistakes, they have conflict with each
Yeah.
other.
but just the very structure of the show is so different that it's just refreshing. Even when it's bad, it's like, it's bad in a new way I haven't
Yeah.
seen before, which is pleasant.
Yeah.
That's good. What else?
I want to take a second to talk about how much I love the opening credits.
Oh, yes.
Unlike the terrible opening credits of Enterprise, I watched every time. I love the song, I love how it ties into the original series. The art is beautiful.
Yeah, so they go back to the orchestral, which they should,
Mhm.
and they do, you know, da, 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 like that's Star Trek.
Yeah, we know what Star Trek's supposed to sound like.
Yeah, but it's also its own thing, and then yeah, you get this whole like, how would you describe
I
it?
assume it's just like art they used when they were designing everything, but like it looks beautiful. There's like a shot of like a tiny Discovery flying away from a plant tongue, and I'm just like, I'll watch that all day.
Yeah, that's
Like a phaser that's like split apart. It's awesome.
yeah, it's all like cutaway views of like if you got those old technical manual books back in
Yeah,
the
show
day.
me Mr. Scott's Discovery Technical Manual.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he's also alive. I don't know.
I mean, he would be at this point.
That's
right?
true.
Yeah. So.
I'm also on the show, Captain.
That's most of the things I had. What do you?
I like the big sand logo.
Yeah, I
That's
did
a
that.
good. Oh, that was just. I wanna take you back to my notes when I was watching this the other night. When we have the big Trek logo and the Shenzhou comes out of the sky, and I wrote down in my notes, God, I love Star Trek. I haven't thought that in forever.
It's been a while.
Uh huh.
And again, there's a lot of things that I don't love.
We're good. Yeah.
but there's a lot of things I do love. I actually don't like those uniforms. I know you're a fan.
That's fine.
I'm not. I like the colorful. I like the, the bright red, the bright yellow, the bright blue.
See, I think the new badge design is real cool. The gold.
Yeah, I'm wearing one right now, and
Okay.
I like these a good deal.
We got gold for command, we got silver for science and medical, and we've got bronze for security and engineering. And all I can think is, that's awesome. I feel real bad for everyone in security and engineering.
Third place.
Oh, jeez, thanks. Yeah, if you try real hard, maybe you'll make command someday.
That said, let's think about some of the characters who earned that bronze. Chekhov,
Mhm.
Worf.
Yeah, checks out.
Tuvok doesn't deserve that.
No, he's doing better.
Malcolm Reed. Yeah. Most of them do.
How many bronze stars can I throw at him? Is it a lot?
He gets a chocolate star.
They also have the pips on them, which I love.
Mhm.
There's a little like the 4 for captain, and they got the weird armband. There's a lot going on, and I kind of love all of it.
It's a little too muted for my taste. I don't love the shiny,
Mm.
but I think they're going to the original series design next season,
Oh, that's cool.
or at least we're gonna see some, without spoiling too much, we're gonna see some familiar characters from the original series, and they showed us a teaser from behind this character's shoulders, and you saw the gold shirt.
Now,
So he's a
if I can recall my reaction to that, it was
Yeah. You're magnified here if you want us to. There you go. Good job.
Uh-huh.
Any other major points you want to hit?
That's all of it.
We're not used to talking about one episode. It feels weird.
Yeah, I think the show's gonna start getting shorter.
But I figured we had a lot to talk about. We definitely didn't want to do both of them, and also we got a pad for time now. There's only 15 left, and then we won't have done everything. So
Oh, I found out on Memory Alpha, Edgar Wright was asked to direct this episode.
I saw that, and there was some drama there where they're like, nah, too good.
It's only Star Trek. Come
It
on.
sure sounds like Rick Berman's still there.
I mean, he wouldn't do Ant-Man, so clearly, like.
No, that was a little disappointing.
Yeah.
And so many personnel problems, and there's so much crap going on
Yeah.
behind the scenes, and we only know some of it. And if there's one thing I've learned reading about the other shows sort of after the fact is we're not going to find out some of that stuff for you. Like,
Years.
we're only hearing about some of it. It's
Yeah.
probably real bad.
Uh-huh.
And they keep changing showrunners.
Well, the fact that they fired the 2 showrunners for just being horrible to the writing staff is apparently what happened. Like,
Now, on the one hand, I wish they didn't treat them like that. On the other hand, I'm glad they take it seriously enough that
Yeah.
they're like, no, don't treat your writers like shit. Go, you're fired. Like, that's good.
yeah.
But, it means this will be the 3rd set of showrunners in 2 seasons, 2 short seasons.
Yep.
And that means the show's gonna be very uneven, which I don't love.
Alex Kurtzman, that guy seems to know his shit.
Well, that guy brought us Trek 2009, which we loved,
Uh-huh.
and Into Darkness, which we hated.
Mhm.
So,
50-50.
we'll see. Still mad about that, though.
Yeah, well, you should be. It's not a very good movie.
Yeah. So, okay,
We want to head into the.
well, we used to have, very long time listeners will remember, back when we did the original series, we had a feature on the show called, Bob, did you hit the reverb please? In the future! That deserves, okay, I'll take it.
I guess you guys listened to the old episode.
Yeah.
Then I'm sorry.
Yeah. But because this is sort of a sequel, prequel, we've decided to go a little bit of a different direction and bring this feature back and call out some of the weird retcons, some of the new things that were there the whole time. So with that in mind, we have a new feature called In the Past of the Future. Now you go first.
In the past of the future, reverb. Human music technology will have reached the point that we can now install a stereo into a human woman.
That one really caught your eye, didn't it?
I really liked that woman just with the thing on her head. You said it was like a VR thing.
That's what that shitty novel said.
And I'm just like, nope, robot on the bridge. A cool robot.
She looked like a Daft Punk,
Mm-hmm.
which was cool. And if she is a Daft Punk from Daft Punk Planet, that would be great. But it's also possible this book, like what they said was that it was a VR display for the tactical.
Yep, that sounds dumb. She's a robot.
See, I think that sounds cool. I want her to be an alien too. But maybe maybe they created that technology because they needed to live, but maybe humans can also use it.
Sure.
There, now we can both
Yeah.
be right.
Anyway, she should definitely be going like.
Yeah, of course. Like just thumping bass anytime she's walking down the corridors. Oh, I almost spoiled something.
Yeah.
It's gonna be so hard. You guys who have seen ahead, you know. There's a dance party, I'll say that.
Oh God, there is.
There's a dance party. Okay, and mine, Vulcan Ambassador Sarek, who once sounded like Vincent Price. Thank you for ruining that forever, Brian, by the way. Pointed out that Sarek sounded like Vincent Price, and I can't not notice that ever now.
This is my son, Spock.
It would be illogical. Yeah.
Darkness rolls across the land.
And then in the movies, he sounded British. Inexplicably, half the people in the reboot universe just turned British. Carol Marcus was British, and wasn't there a third one? I feel like there was.
Oddly enough, Ambassador RoboCop wasn't British.
Yeah, maybe he couldn't do the accent. Anyway, now he sounds like disgraced pervert Kevin Spacey. And now that I've pointed out, you will not be able to unhear that. So you're welcome.
That's 3 ruined Sareks.
I just want to use the phrase disgraced pervert Kevin Spacey as much as possible.
Checks out.
Yeah. And then, as is our custom, we have a quote. This is, rather than choosing 2, because there's just the one episode, we just decided on one. And Bob, if you could play that now, please. Do you want to set this up first?
This is from the meeting with Michael Saru and Giorgio in her office.
Okay.
Saru, go with that. Captain, let's take variables to a minimum. I wouldn't want to put my colleague at risk.
And you, Mr. Saru, are you equally happy not to be put at risk?
Oh, on any occasion, Captain.
What a great character.
They gave them kind of a Bones and Spock thing.
Yep.
It was different enough that it didn't feel like they were just duplicating it, but it was definitely constantly at odds.
Yeah, it's a really cool working relationship. I like watching these two.
Yeah.
And I like where their relationship will go as the series goes on, which we can't talk about right now.
No, there's a major point where he turns a corner. And do we want to do spoilers now? Do we want to, this is the last part of the show? If
Yeah,
any
all
of
right,
you are concerned about spoilers, plug your ears, leave the room, whatever. But we'll talk about
5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, fine.
No, he loses the oh no, and he gets some depth, and he actually by the end of the season they make him temporary captain, and I buy it. Right now I hate him. In 15 episodes,
He's
in charge of the ship, and I dig it.
Him earn that captainship and keep it. He delivers an amazing speech to the crew of the Discovery.
Yeah.
And it's great.
That episode where that happens to him, I rolled my eyes so hard because it looked like your standard issue possession episode that we got on Voyager 100,000 times. And then it took a couple of turns and it was like, whoa, alien.
Yeah.
Actual something that is not the same bumpy-headed bullshit we've seen 100 times. This is a weird, new, different science fiction concept. Good job.
I also really love how betrayed he is by Michael letting Giorgio die.
Yeah.
When she shows back up on Discovery and he's commander, he's just like, I trusted you and you ruined everything.
You killed Mom.
And also now I'm commander? Are you kidding me? Do you know how dead I'm going to be?
Have you seen me?
I'm very willowy.
Yeah. and honestly, dramatically, it is a bold choice, and I stand by them killing the captain. On the other hand, no.
Yeah.
The first captain I've liked in so long.
She's so good, but I mean, like,
We'll get her again.
Yeah.
Right?
losing her, I said this before, I cannot imagine how the hell they thought they were going to do the mirror universe stuff with her and have her never shown up on the show.
Yeah, not getting the backstory of showing her relationship with Michael means when she shows up again, it's like, who's this person? Why do I care? I mean, Michelle Yeoh, that's cool, but
But it's such a good reveal that I called 2 episodes before she showed up.
we because we didn't have the show as a forum, we would take to DMs and back and forth. Ooh, what do you think's gonna happen? What do you think? You know,
It was weird. It's like when we were back on the message board, just like we watched a show that was cool.
I mean, we might as well have.
I hope someone invents the podcast.
But then we were stuck in the mire of Enterprise, and like, we can't talk about this yet. Oh my god! But we might as well have been like stomach down, knees up on our princess phones on our beds. Like, did you hear what happened? Oh my god! You know, like that. This is every time. That's what I picture. A couple of people got that. Some jokes are for me. No, and you said there was a dumb fan theory going around about the mirror universe, and I was like, no.
That's the dumbest thing I've
They
ever.
wouldn't
never
do
gonna
that.
happen. God damn it, Matt.
What kind of an idiot went, hello? And unfortunately, there's more of that coming.
Yeah,
because
we'll
then
get to
there's-
that. We don't really.
Okay, one more spoiler thing.
All right.
Did you see any clues about Vok? Who-
No, that
there's-
one.
One of the Klingon characters ends up disguising himself as a human and blah 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 blah.
No,
Like,
that one surprised the hell out of me. And I did see some stuff. Some people talking about that, about how like the person who played Vok was had a weird name and had never appeared in anything else before or something, and they were doing they were really trying to make it not clear that it was Lieutenant Ash Tyler, aka the Firewolf.
Ash Tyler, the Firewolf. Yeah, it's not all smooth
But
sailing
I
over here.
read that and I'm like, that's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
It was, but I still like the show.
Yeah. No, we got a lot of cool stuff to look forward to. And season 2, I'm really excited about. Broadly speaking, I've said this a million times, but I feel like this show has all the pieces for a good show. I don't think they've been assembled in the right order yet, and here's hoping that they will.
There's enough of Discovery that I really like that I think I'm hopeful that
It's the characters.
that season 2 is gonna nail it.
We'll see. They're going to bring back Klingons. They're going to bring back the Mirror Universe probably, and I was thinking, oh, come on, do something.
Don't ruin this for me.
Yeah.
I'm literally begging you.
I have no control over this. I mean, if you made Ash Tyler happen, maybe I do.
I didn't make Ash Tyler happen.
Maybe we're hashtag influencers.
Is this what I get for creating Trip?
You did create Trip.
Betrayed.
And then they killed him. Do you need a minute, buddy?
I'm fine. It's all fine.
All right.
It's fine.
So any final thoughts?
No, it's
anything?
fine.
I will say, we had the advantage when this episode aired, is that the right word? Dropped on the wonderful CBS All Access app that you should definitely pay $6,000 a month to watch one show on.
It's such a savings.
No, they did not leave you hanging with that horrible cliffhanger, horrible in a good way, oh my god, what's gonna happen next? They showed you the second one immediately, and I thought that was good, because that would have driven me nuts. So that was good, and it's rough for us knowing what happens next, and I'm glad we get to watch this a couple times, because there's a bunch of stuff that I thought happened in the first one that happened in the second one, and vice versa. And all
The
that
entire battle at the binary stars.
which is the title, which is probably the best title we're gonna get in this season, that also has Into the Woods.
I Go.
Uh-huh.
Magic to make the sanest man go mad.
And don't forget, the butcher cares not for the lamb's cry.
That's a Trek series. That's a Trek title as hell. That's some "The World Is Hollow and I Have Touched the Sky" stuff.
Yes, it is. So that's pretty much it. As of right now, we are now officially the most accomplished Star Trek podcast ever produced. So we appreciate that. Well, we were going to drop some balloons on you, but
We've just been informed that Al's car is being towed.
I think I care more about the balloons. Well, we had some music we were going to play during that, and I feel like the people should hear this anyway. This was, there's a guy who regularly composes songs for our show. He's delightful. His name is Richard, and he has written so many wonderful songs for us. And he wrote this one in honor of us covering Discovery. So let's go out on that.
It's time for disco. Na-na-na. It's time for disco. Na-na-na. It's time for disco. Na-na-na. It's time for disco. Na-na-na.
See you, folks.